When Anakin Skywalker fell on Mustafar, he lost more than just his limbs. He lost his freedom. Reborn fully as Darth Vader, he emerged from the fire not as a man, but as a prisoner of his own body, wrapped in a suit of armor that would keep him alive, but at a terrible cost. This wasn't simply protective gear, it was a brutal, restrictive, and painful life support system designed by those who had no concern for his comfort, only his usefulness. For the rest of his life, Vader would hate the suit that encased him, a constant reminder of his failure, his servitude, and the physical agony he endured every moment he breathed. Let's take a look at every way that the suit hurt him, as described in the Legends novel Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader. The armor that Vader wore was not forged with compassion or designed for optimal comfort. It was built swiftly, without regard for the pain it might cause or the rage it would breed. The internal layers of the suit were lined with plastoid plates that pressed into his scarred and burned flesh, each movement scraping and tugging against ruined skin. There were no pressure-sensitive fabrics, no comfort linings, only sharp, unyielding surfaces that dug into his body, amplifying his suffering rather than easing it. His skin had been repaired with synth flesh, which needed to be cleaned and reapplied periodically. Vader's limbs, once agile and strong, were now replaced with crude, heavy prosthetics. The servo motors inside hissed and whirred with every motion, and lacked the fluidity he once possessed as a Jedi Knight. Where his organic body had moved with grace and precision, now every movement was accompanied by a mechanical whine, like the groaning of an old war machine. His enhanced strength was little consolation. It came at the cost of speed, precision, and subtlety. Even the most basic motions required effort and control, as though he were constantly pushing against unseen weights. The bodysuit chafed against his synthetic flesh, never allowing a moment's peace. The chest panel and belt were not integrated with finesse, they jutted from his body, constantly reminding him of their presence, occasionally delivering shocks or malfunctions that only deepened his frustration. The suit was built more like a symbol of terror than a system of support. Every component was loud, bulky, and needlessly aggressive, designed less for efficiency and more for intimidation. His helmet, the most imposing part of the armor, was as much a curse as a lifeline. While it allowed him to see and breathe, it also cut him off from the world. His field of vision was narrowed, creating blind spots that no warrior should ever have to endure. The visual displays flickered and glitched at times, and the internal audio receptors often distorted sound, making everything sound as though he was underwater. Even his own speech was processed and transformed by the helmet's vocoder, stripping it of human inflection and replacing it with a cold growl. Every breath Vader took was a reminder of his dependence on the armor. The respirator embedded in the suit was not subtle. It roared like a dying engine with every inhale and exhale, an unnatural rhythm that echoed in every chamber he entered. There was no silence for Darth Vader, no moment of peace. His breathing marked him, haunted him, and announced his presence wherever he went. The sound wasn't just psychological torment. The airflow system frequently cycled at odd rhythms, which made calming down or focusing more difficult during intense emotional moments. If his anger flared, or if panic ever crept in, the system didn't accelerate naturally with his rising pulse. Instead, it maintained its mechanical tempo, forcing him to adapt his body to the machine, rather than the other way around. Vader could never sleep normally. The respirator continued its loud cycle, even in moments of rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he did so knowing he might wake up in agony, suffocating in his own mask if the regulators faltered. The machine was his captor, always looming over him, reminding him that the price of survival was eternal submission. Beyond the physical pain, the suit also interfered with his skills as a warrior. Though he remained powerful, there was a sense of distance between himself and the Force that he could never quite eliminate. His mobility was clunky, preventing the fluid saber combat he had once mastered. He adapted, developing a slower, more brute force style of fighting, but he was acutely aware of how far he had fallen from the agile warrior he had once been. The lack of peripheral vision, the loss of limbs, the isolation caused by the helmet, all of it worked against the force-assisted awareness he had once relied on in battle. He could still wield immense power, but the finesse, the artistry, and the instinctive flow of combat were forever hampered by his new form. Perhaps worst of all was the realization that the suit had not been made to help him, but to control him. Palpatine had overseen its design, or at the very least approved it, ensuring that Vader would remain dependent. It was primitive compared to the advanced prosthetics available at the time. Its systems were incompatible with many upgrades, and its programming was locked down to prevent unauthorized modification. Any hope of improving or customizing it was met with limitations built into its very architecture. The suit was a cage. It kept him alive, but never allowed him to thrive. It ensured his usefulness while keeping him weak enough to control. Palpatine had no interest in giving Vader too much freedom or autonomy. The suit made Vader a servant wrapped in steel, incapable of becoming a master of the Sith. Interestingly, while Vader loathed his armor in the Legends continuity, canon eventually presented a more complex evolution of his relationship with the suit. In the canon novel Lords of the Sith, it's revealed that after years of suffering and rage, Vader began to find a twisted sense of appreciation for the very thing he once hated. The suit was still painful, but he had come to see that pain as a source of strength. In embracing the torment, Vader found deeper communion with the dark side. Every moment of agony fueled his hatred, and that hatred in turn made him more powerful. Rather than viewing the armor as a curse, he recognized that its suffering sharpened his connection to the Force. In canon, the suit became not only a tool of survival or control, but a crucible through which Darth Vader was reborn again and again in the fire of his own fury. This stark contrast between Legends and canon shows two different lenses, one where the armor was a symbol of everything stolen from him, and another where it became a tool he learned to master, even cherish, for the power it gave him. Vader's hatred for his armor ran deep, but it was that hatred that sustained him. Every ache, every breath, every flash of pain reminded him of what he had lost, and what he had become. He used that hate. He let it grow inside him, feeding the dark side until it burned brighter than the agony. The suit might have been a prison, but within its shell, Vader found his power. And so he endured. He endured the pain, the weight, the suffocating silence of his isolation. Because the galaxy would come to fear him not in spite of his suffering, but because of it. The armor was his torment, but also his weapon. And Darth Vader wielded it with the same cold, unrelenting fury that had consumed Anakin Skywalker. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did, and as always, may the Force be with you.